Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. Joining me today is my co-host, John Keir.
What's up, everybody?
And today we're going to go over a lot of news. There's been a lot happening in the NFL. We're going to talk about the Panthers recap. We're going to talk about what's happening in the NFL. We're going to talk about the 53-man roster that the Steelers have now finalized. So first, we'll jump into NFL news. The Jets traded Sheldon Richardson and a 7th-round pick to the Seahawks for Jermaine Kearse, a 2nd-round pick, and a 7th-round pick. Right on the spot, who do you think was the winner of that trade, if there is one?
I don't know. I've always loved Sheldon Richardson, and I gotta be honest, I don't know as much about Jermaine Kearse because I don't see him as often, having someone that plays in the NFC West. But I know that Sheldon Richardson has been a really great defensive lineman for the years. But I've seen people that are really high on Jermaine Kearse, so I don't know. It's a toss-up for me. What about you?
I really like what the Seahawks did here. I was never high on Jermaine Kearse. I don't understand how the Jets got away with it. I guess it's a 2nd-round pick. I guess that was the thought that was going on behind this. But Jermaine Kearse did make a few great catches. If I remember correctly, he was the one that made the catch where the ball went over him. He fell to the ground, and he still caught it in his chest while he was on the ground.
Are you referring to the one in Super Bowl 40, what was it, 49?
Yeah, yep, against the Patriots. I think he was the one to do that. So, I mean, he's made good picks. And then I really like that they got the 2nd-round pick out of it again, and that's really it. I think the Jets were that. Oh, wait. This is really hard, actually. I think the Seahawks. I go back to the Seahawks. It's just a big toss-up. But moving right along, the Broncos made some interesting moves in the past few days. They re-signed Brock Osweiler and cut veteran and 3-time Pro Bowl safety T.J. Ward, who has since signed with the Buccaneers on a 1-year deal. Do you have anything to say about that?
I think a lot of Steelers fans are excited about how they've been going out and getting free agents or important pieces like they've been wheeling and dealing with Vance McDonald and Joe Hayden. And I think the fans were getting a little too used to that because we were seeing a lot of fans going, "Oh, get T.J. Ward." But from what I understand, T.J. Ward is more of a run-stopping kind of extra linebacker type of safety. It's not really going to help you in the pass defense, which is really the thing the Steelers need. So adding him wouldn't really help the team that much. That's all I have to say about it.
I also didn't like that. I didn't like that a lot of Steelers fans really wanted him because who is he going to start over? Is he going to start over Sean Davis or Mike Mitchell? He's a starter. That's just the end of story. Like I wouldn't want him to be starting over Sean Davis or Mike Mitchell, and he would be $5 million to sit on the bench. Like it's just not worth it. I prefer our starters over T.J. Ward, to be honest. But moving right along, DeAndre Hopkins got a 5-year, $81 million contract extension. Do you think this is deserved, and where does he rank as a player in terms of wide receivers?
Yes and no. It's deserved in the sense that he's a hard worker, and he's put up some really good numbers considering poor quarterback play over the last few years. But the fact of the matter is, at least to me, that Hopkins is a little bit overrated in the grand scheme of things. I don't know. I always feel like other guys like Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, Odell Beckham, just to name a few. I always thought they were kind of at a higher level and they were just a little bit more reliable than Hopkins was. But that doesn't mean he wasn't deserving. I just think that he isn't the best. So I thought maybe someone like Antonio Brown would have been more deserving. But he's still up there, maybe like the top 10. It's like the very top right now.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I think he's in the top 10. I actually did a list, and he came out at number 8 for me. And I honestly think he does sort of deserve it. The Texans' superstar defense is complemented by a lackluster offense with only one star in my eyes, and that's Nuke. Even though his production went down last year, it's mostly because of Osweiler not seeing him open. And this year I expect him to get a lot of targets again with whoever it is, whether it be Deshaun Watson or Tom Savage. Even when he was targeted last year, he made amazing grabs and great contested catches and very close to the sideline catches. He's really good at that. So it was well-deserved in my eyes. But moving on to the next bit of NFL news, Brad Kaaya was cut from the Lions this week, and then he was just picked up by the Panthers this morning. And if you have listened to the podcast for a while, you know that he was my favorite quarterback out of the ones that we looked at pre-draft. And by recommendation from John, I just wanted to compare Kaaya's and Dobbs' stats. And Kaaya was 24 for 40, which is a 60% completion percentage for 291 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And Dobbs was 38 for 60 for 59.4% for 406 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and 1 rushing touchdown. It's kind of actually almost hard to tell who was the third-round pick and who was a sixth-round pick here because they both look like fifth-round, sixth-round picks. To be honest, there's almost no difference. Do you think there's any one quality that makes these quarterbacks look like they're any better or worse than each other?
No, I'd just say that Dobbs has a larger sample size than Kaaya does, and it looks like Kaaya might be a little bit better at this point because he was more efficient, having only 1 turnover, and Dobbs had the 3 interceptions. So oh, by the way, Dobbs threw those 3 interceptions on 20 more throws, so I think knowing that Dobbs might be a little more prone to turning the ball over, but it's still a pretty slim margin. I don't think either of these guys are that special right now.
Nah, yeah, I gotta agree. So moving on to Steelers news, there's a lot to go over here. There was so much news over the weekend, so just bear with us here. Firstly, the Steelers traded Sammy Coates and the 2019 7th-round pick for the Steelers' 6th-round pick back that they traded for Justin Gilbert. What do you think of this trade?
Well, it shows that the Steelers have lost all faith in Sammy Coates and that they thought he was never going to return to his early season form last year. It's certainly disappointing considering a third-round pick was used on him. But the fact of the matter is he was never consistent enough to be a real threat in this offense. And the fact that the Steelers did get a pick back, that was nice. But I think that it is disappointing to have to put on a player like that. And hopefully he doesn't find himself against the Steelers next week.
Yep. That's going to be an interesting matchup. It's going to be Joe Hayden versus Sammy Coates, technically, because Sammy Coates is actually going to be propelled into a starting role because looking at the Cleveland's wide receiver depth chart, it was really actually sad. It was Corey Coleman, Sammy Coates, and there was one other name that was even worth mentioning that I can't even remember at the moment. But I like the trade. I like turning Sammy Coates into something when he wasn't. He was probably going to get cut is what I mean. So getting any pick out of it was decent. I'm glad that they turned it into something because that 6th-round pick actually became important later in this next trade. The Steelers traded that 6th-round pick to the Buccaneers for safety J.J. Wilcox and the 2019 7th-round pick just today, and that's the literally same exact trade that we did for Sammy Coates, except with the Bucs, and we're the one getting the player this time. So what do you think of this one?
I don't know too much about it, about J.J. Wilcox as a player, but I do know that the Steelers have been looking to add a safety due to the injury to Jordan Dangerfield and the potential long-term injury of Mike Mitchell. So I knew they were going to be looking for someone at safety. I didn't think they were going to be making a trade. I kind of thought they'd be picking someone up from the practice squad. Good on them for trying to get somebody bigger, like a bigger name player, but I don't know how well he fits in. Austin, can you elaborate on that at all?
Yes, J.J. Wilcox is actually literally a worse Mike Mitchell. That is quite the best way to describe him. He hits hard. He gets an interception here and there, but his main problem is missing tackles. He hits hard, but trying to hit someone as hard as you can is going to end up missing a few tackles in there. I watched a lot of his highlights, and a lot of his highlights are actually him jarring the ball loose, hitting guys as hard as he can, taking them down, but a lot of bad angles is what got him out of Dallas, from what I heard. So he's going to be a good backup. That's what I think. He's literally Mike Mitchell Jr. in my eyes. So that's what I think of J.J. Wilcox. But moving on after that, the Steelers the other day also traded Ross Cockrell to the Giants for a conditional 2018 pick. I think by now it was revealed to be a conditional 7th round pick. What do you think of this one?
Hey, he got something. Kevin Colbert got something for Ross Cockrell. And considering the way he performed this preseason and the fact that teams don't probably look at the Steelers for a cornerback depth, I think it's great that they were able to get anything for Cockrell. I thought for sure he'd be cut and the Steelers would have to eat some of his salary, but bam, they just trade him away, and they're in good shape with a conditional pick if they got anything.
Yeah.
So that was good.
Yeah, it was almost looking like just Ross Cockrell was going to be cut, and that was going to be the end of it, with Joe Hayden performing the way he did. I meant Mike Hilton performing the way he did, and then Joe Hayden being brought in. It looked like Ross Cockrell was just going to be cut, and that was going to be it. Luckily, the Giants bid on it, and I hope he gets to play for the Giants a little bit at least. I think he's a decent 4th cornerback. I think that's what he's going to be for them. That's what several Giants fans have told me. And obviously we want to hope for him to be that, because it's a conditional pick, so we don't get the pick unless he's on the roster for a certain amount of time. That has yet to be disclosed, how much time it has to be. But moving on, before all the craziness happened, this is one of the first bit of Steelers news from the week. Kevin Colbert has received its... It is Colbert. Okay, I don't know why my mind messed that up, but has received a 2-year extension, tying him to the Steelers through 2020. This is a good move?
Oh yeah, business as usual. Keep it going.
Yep, that is fantastic. Can't agree more. Next up, Martavis Bryant has been fully reinstated from suspension and is expected to start Week 1 versus the Browns. Do you have anything to say about that?
No, it's good that there hasn't been much to talk about with this, though, because I remember that we were concerned if he was going to be back in time for the regular season, and that kind of got swept under the rug with all the preseason storylines, so it's nice that this didn't turn into a distraction.
Yep, that I can't agree more. I have nothing else to add for that. The next point is that Le'Veon Bell has reported the Steelers facility like he said he would on September 1st. He didn't sign his tag to give the Steelers a technical 54th roster spot. What do you think of that?
I think it's because the Steelers are going to be moving a couple people to injured reserve, and then once they do that, they'll be able to have Bell sign his tag, and then he'll count against. I think they were doing that with either Cam Sutton or Mike Mitchell or both. Because remember, this year there are 2 injured reserve return players, so just keep that in mind. That's why I think that Bell didn't sign his tag right away.
Mm-hmm. I think they're going to need to change this rule in the future, because if the Patriots did this, I think everyone would be freaking out. I think everyone would be like, they're cheating, because this, in my mind, this is a little bit of cheating. But I mean, it's not like awful, like killing. But I think this is going to be a rule that's eventually changed, where a player that got franchise tag will count as a roster spot later on, even if they haven't signed. But that's just my opinion on it. Anyhow, the last bit of news, Cameron Sutton and Mike Mitchell are rumored to be placed on short-term IR. Do you have anything to add about that?
Not much. From all the reports I can tell, it sounds like Mitchell's injury would not be that serious of a long-term injury, and then as far as Sutton goes, I think they just don't want to rush him back, given the nature of hamstring injuries and how it's really easy to re-aggravate those. I think they're both potential candidates to be designated to return players at some point this season.
Yeah, that would make sense. I'm really hoping Mike Mitchell won't, because I want Mike Mitchell to start the season. It's going to be rough without him. Preseason, without when the starters played, it just looked bad without Mike Mitchell on the field, and I really hope to see him back, even though a lot of the times I rip on him for his bad tackling. He's a great leader out there, and I hope he gets back soon. I hope he doesn't go on short-term IR.
You know, he has never missed a game with the Steelers.
Is that true?
3 straight years he's played in all 16 games.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. I honestly didn't know that. I could have sworn he was injured last year or something, but that's incredible. But
yeah.
Moving on to the Panthers recap, let's go straight into who impressed here. Who impressed you?
Terrell Watson in a game that essentially his job or his chance of getting a job was on the line. He played his best game, and right from the start of the game, he was running with purpose. He was running through people, running around people. He was doing his thing, and he looked really good while doing it. He finished with 89 yards at 19 carries with a long of 12 yards. It's a 4.7 yard per carry average. I just felt like he was a man on a mission, and he did eventually beat out the two veterans in Niall Davis and Fitzgerald Toussaint. So that's a pretty big marker for him to be overtaking two players of that pedigree. What about you? Who impressed for you?
Marcus Tucker did. Tucker tried to make one last push to make it on the roster this game. He hadn't done really much every other game, but sadly the 5 receptions for 83 yards wasn't enough. It was enough to get him brought back on the practice squad, and he'll be a decent reserve, but he really had a good game against the Panthers. So moving along to who disappointed you?
I have to be honest, Sammy Coates disappointed me. He was only on the stat sheet because he was targeted once. Otherwise, he was a complete non-factor, and his inability to make plays this preseason cost him his job in Pittsburgh. As we know, he was traded to the Browns for a pick, and Justin Hunter was kept on the roster. So that means Sammy Coates' poor performance in the preseason, and specifically this game, caused him to lose his job here permanently. So he was a player that disappointed me the most. What about you, Austin? Who was really disappointing you this week?
Staying on the same track of people that got cut in the week, Niall Davis. He had 5 rushes for 13 yards, and that's just bad. As a runner, that's under 3 yards a carry. And as a runner, you want at least 3.34 yards a carry. You want to be able to get a first down every 3 rushes, in my mind at least. That's what I look for it to be just a decent rusher, and that was well below. He's just a lackluster runner, and it got him cut because they went with the instead of the kick return guy, they went with the guy who runs better, Terrell Watson. So just not good. So we're gonna move on. Let's hear your stronger than steel stop of the week.
It's that time of the week. The stronger than steel big stop of the week. The award winner this week for the Steelers' final preseason game is L.J. Fort for his fumble recovery. And there's not too much to talk about. I know it's the 4th preseason game. You know, big stops aren't really that big, especially when you're only scoring on like the first and last drive of the game. So, you know, I thought that fumble recovery, he displayed some pretty tremendous athleticism and concentration to be able to gain possession of the ball while falling and staying in bounds. So I thought that was pretty impressive. So he earns the Big Stop of the Week award this week. And stay tuned because, as always, we'll be posting it on Instagram. And stay tuned for next week's first regular season Big Stop of the Week winner. So now we can move into our next award, which, Austin, is your classic Stronger Than Steel Player of the Week. And who is that winner this week?
The player of the week this week is actually Josh Dobbs. He finally looked comfortable and might have been against a complete team of backups, but after ripping them apart for so long, I have to give it to him. He threw accurately in terms of percentage. He threw no interceptions, and he got the game-winning touchdown with 2 seconds left. He did good in my eyes. So, moving on, we're going to go to the 53-man roster. I'll try to recap it as quick as I can. Kept 3 quarterbacks, Ben Roethlisberger, Landry Jones, Joshua Dobbs. 4 running backs, James Conner, Terrell Watson, Roosevelt Nix, and technically Le'Veon Bell with an asterisk. He hasn't signed yet. He's technically a 54th man, but he's going to be on it, obviously. Wide receiver, 6, Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, Eli Rogers, Juju Smith-Schuster, Justin Hunter, and Darius Hayward-Bay. For tight end, there was 3, Vance McDonald, Jesse James, Xavier Grimble, David Johnson getting cut. Offensive line, surprisingly 9, Alejandro Villanueva, Ramon Foster, Marquise Pouncey, David DeCastro, Marcus Gilbert, BJ Finney, Chris Hubbard, Gerald Hawkins, and Matt Feeler. Defensive line, there were 6 kept, Cameron Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, Javon Hargrave, Tyson Alualu, LT Walton, and Danielle McCullers. For outside linebacker, there's 5, Bud Dupree, TJ Watt, James Harrison, Arthur Motes, Anthony Chickalo. Inside linebacker, there's 4, Ryan Shazier, Vince Williams, Tyler Matakevich, LJ Fort. 7 cornerbacks: Artie Burns, Joe Hayden, William Gay, Mike Hilton, Cody Sensabaugh, Cameron Sutton, and Brian Allen. Safety, there's going to be 4, but technically 5 with the addition of J.J. Wilcox. But Sean Davis, Mike Mitchell, Robert Golden, and Jordan Dangerfield. 3 specialists: Chris Boswell, Jordan Berry, and Cameron Canaday. So after that huge mouthful, who was the biggest surprise cut, in your opinion?
In my opinion, it was actually David Johnson, the tight end. Sure, he was a blocking specialist, but we were talking about just a few days ago why we thought he was a safer bet to make the roster than Xavier Grimble. The coaching staff said that Johnson had been the Steelers' most consistent tight end all preseason, and I really thought his place on the team was secure, but they must really think that Grimble, James, and Vance McDonald are capable enough of blocking so that they didn't need him anymore. And the good news is that I don't think Johnson will be going anywhere else, so in case there is an injury, I think that he could be the one that gets signed off of the street to come back in and play his normal blocking role. But I was still surprised that they cut him. I thought that he was someone they were going to want around this year. So David Johnson was my biggest surprise cut. And Austin, I'll give you the floor because I already know what you're going to say.
Oh boy. The 6th round Hall of Famer that didn't even make the roster. As soon as I found out, I had so much profanity that I let out that can't be, the things I said can't be repeated on this podcast. I was so angry that Colin Hobo got cut. I don't even care if he wasn't the best option. I would, just to keep Steelers fans happy, because when Colin Hobo was drafted, everyone was already mad. He was a 6th round pick, not even a 7th. Almost all long snappers are usually undrafted free agents, and that's usually how it should be, or their 7th round. And so, the organization got a lot of crap for it, and I think it's really hard to say that Canaday was a better long snapper. Hoba messed up once, and I guess for a long snapper, that's it. You mess up once and you're done. But it was just so infuriating to see that he got cut after the Steelers wasted a 6th round pick on him. That could have been used on any other position. I would have been happy. It could have been used on offensive linemen and brought in someone else, and I would have been happy. But it just turned into a pick that was literally wasted, especially after they talked him up so hard. That this was going to be that you have to draft a long snapper that's going to be great for years and years, and then they cut him. Okay, all right, my rant is over. I'm a little flustered. I'm a little angry still, but we're gonna go on to who was your biggest surprise to make the roster.
I'm gonna go with Brian Allen. I did not see the Steelers keeping 7 cornerbacks, although we suspect Cameron Sutton will be going to IR. The point being, I was still surprised to see the Steelers keep that many cornerbacks, especially keeping Brian Allen, who we all thought was a perfect practice squad project player when he was drafted, but apparently he's been showing enough in training camp and the games that they're worried that if they cut him, he's going to be claimed by another team. They think they really have something special here. He's supposedly impressed on special teams too, so I gotta be honest, I was originally surprised to hear that he had made the roster, but it sounds like they have someone they really like here. And with all the physical tools, why not? I think that pretty much sums it up. So Austin, what about you? Who really shocked and made the roster in your eyes?
I had to go with Justin Hunter. I was still a fan of DeMarcus Ayers over Justin Hunter. DeMarcus Ayers didn't have a big showing, but Justin Hunter didn't either, to be fair. And Justin Hunter was there for all 4 preseason games. DeMarcus Ayers was injured and only could play the last one. So I was still a fan of DeMarcus Ayers, especially when he had a 20-yard punt return in the game he played. I thought he did decently. I don't know, I guess because Justin Hunter had 3 receptions for 75 yards and a touchdown. That was enough to give him the spot. I don't know. I felt like Justin Hunter didn't really do anything this preseason. He didn't show up. We've talked about it all the preseason games. It seemed odd to me. But moving on, all 3 of the guys that we expected to be returning kicks were either traded or cut. So who's your guess to be returning kicks now with Toussaint, Davis, and Coates all gone?
Oh, well, it seems like the most popular pick is Eli Rogers, and I think that makes the most sense. But gosh, you and I had been talking about it earlier. I heard one time that Artie Burns had taken a kickoff return in training camp practice, and that Tomlin yelled at him for stealing reps. So I think Artie Burns might be wanting to do kick returns, but I'd much rather see what someone like Terrell Watson can do returning kicks, don't you?
Yeah, I think it's Eli Rogers too. We've seen him back there maybe a few times, but I don't think he's that good at it. I just hope to see a lot of knees in the end zone this year if Justin Hunter or Terrell Watson can't do it. Maybe even Darius Hayward-Bay. That'd be an interesting one, but I don't know. I don't even know what to think of that. I found it odd when all three of the kick returners were cut or traded. So, but we're gonna go into a little bit more of NFL-wide cuts. And who was the biggest surprise cut on another team for you?
I had to go with Brock Osweiler of the Browns. Not necessarily just for cutting him, but for how much money they're going to be paying in that contract. What was it? Something like $15 million?
Oh, they have to pay him $16.25 million.
Yeah, the Browns really did not want this guy. They really did not want this guy on their team. If they're willing to pay that much money for this guy to stay away from their facility and not come around, that really speaks volumes about how bad a player is. And that really speaks volumes about how bad the decision was to acquire this guy in the first place. Shame on the Browns once again. Forever shame. What about you, Austin? Who was your biggest surprise cut?
For me, it was TJ Ward. After seeing that the Broncos were trying to trade him and that if they didn't trade him, they were going to cut him, it just surprised me. And you could tell that he was a hot commodity. 9 teams were interested in him as soon as he got cut. And he got picked up as soon as he was available, as soon as teams could get him. It just didn't make sense to me. I spoke with a few Broncos fans to see their opinion. They didn't understand either. Von Miller and several other Broncos voiced their dismay with the option too. It's the weirdest cut. He's a Pro Bowler, and they just opted for younger, and they believed in their 2 young safeties. Simmons, and I can't actually remember the other guy's name. It's slipping my mind, but Simmons was the one that blocked the kick in the Saints game last year. So, I mean, I guess he's done things, but I feel like they weren't proven, and TJ Ward is proven, and that they should have kept TJ Ward for longer because he could still play. Maybe I'll be eating my words later, but I don't know. I think the Broncos made a mistake here and lost a big piece of their defense. But you want to wrap this up for me?
Yeah, sure. I don't really have much more to add to that, but if we're all set to close up shop for the night, I'm good.
Yep. I think we're all done here.
Alrighty, well, ladies and gentlemen of Steelers Nation, if you have any questions about the show, you want to ask us questions, we can answer on the show, or you want to know something about us, just feel free to email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. Check us out. We're all over social media. Instagram, our username is stronger_steel_NFL. Twitter, it's stronger_steel. And Facebook, it's Stronger Than Steel Podcast. We post our information for our episodes on YouTube and SoundCloud under our name, Stronger Than Steel Podcast. And we also have a website, strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com. Definitely check that out. We apologize for not being able to post the last episode on YouTube as quickly as we wanted to. Had some problems with the internet. You know how that can be sometimes. So we apologize for that, and we'll hopefully get this one on there in no trouble. So thank you, Austin. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us tonight. And have a great night, Steeler Nation. We're 1 week away.
Have a good night.